beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever shall believeth in him would have everlasting life and not perish. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, and the evidence of things not seen. Much like how I welcome you, my friends, to my mania. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Jake Johnson, coming to you live from the internet, hiding off somewhere in the coast of North Carolina. How are you doing this fine evening? I am fantastic. Everything is just as it should be. Can't complain about nothing. What's going on your neck of the woods? Kev, what's up, buddy? Good to see you. You got April hiding behind you over there? Brian might stop by. Maybe. Looks that way. Former Bill Barr is in the news. Former Attorney General. April, what's happening, girl? How are y'all doing? She's listening on mine and about to get on the podcast. Sweet. Me too. You guys have a good time last night? Night before last? Whenever it was we spoke last? Y'all were out partying? Fine as wine. That's always the truth. You know what I'm talking about. What do you mean? Didn't win nothing. Did I miss something? Lost it. Oh, y'all went to the casino. Okay, I got you. Sorry. I forgot about that. Yeah, that's what you're talking about. Okay. Well, that makes sense. Sorry you lost. You'll get them next time. I have been working on my motorcycle for weeks, seems like. Every time I fix something, I find something else wrong. I've got to trace down a loose wire somewhere deep inside the motorcycle. Something. Yep, that's true. Unless you're me, and then you lose all the time, unless you're helping somebody else, and then you win every time. Which is okay by me. I don't really need anything. Just let people file in for a minute, and then I'll get started with the big bad atheist. I think I got her about ready to crank, though. Can't be much more wrong than the loose wire. I've already replaced everything on it that's broken, so I've got maybe a gasket that needs to be fixed, but I have to hear it run before I can tell, and that loose wire, and that should be it. I do help everybody. That's what I don't understand, but it'll happen next time. Oh, you don't understand why you lose because you plan on helping people with it? Well, God doesn't really have anything to do with that. Sometimes when we have good fortune, we thank God for it. And in a way, it's God's doing because he put us here on a path, so forth and so on. But God's not sitting there causing you to win. That's just a game of chance. Chance is a percentage game. It happens. Just like, how some people would say, well, what kind of God would let a little child get hit by a car? Well, a God wouldn't let a child get hit by a car, but an irresponsible parent would. You see how that works? You either have free will or you don't have free will. You can't have it both ways. Either he's in control of everything or he's not. If you have free will, he's not in control of everything. I think he's in control of the big stuff, like making the planet work, and the little stuff is up to the decisions we make in life. I bought some cheap Bluetooth earphones in Georgia just so I could listen to you. They are working great. Awesome. I'm glad to hear it. I wouldn't want everybody around me hearing me either. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about. I got a new toy to play with there, as you can see. I got that just so I could go, "You're wrong!" You're listening with the other one, so each one of you's only got one headphone in. That's like the modern day sharing of the straw, 2 straws and 1 cup. Sports update. Bucks beat Washington, and now it's the second round. We play the Saints next week in round 2. Go Bucks! May go see it with little Mike. That might be interesting. He loves sports. I don't know how he is about football, but I know he loves basketball. He probably likes football too. When we were kids, that's all he did was play basketball. I thought he was going to be like an NBA star or something. Too short, I guess. A nice hot cup of coffee. Who do you think is going to win? You think the Bucks have a shot? Or do you think the Saints are going to take it away? Bucks are going to win. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Can't beat them. All right, y'all ready to get started? It's their year finally. Sorry about the shakiness of my laptop. It's on a bed, sitting on top of a pile of covers to get it up level. I'm working on getting a desk. You heard it here first. Oh, you know what I'm talking about. Go Bucks. All right. Let's hear what the man's got to say today.
Genesis 41. Joseph has shown terrific proficiency in interpreting dreams, which really means that, like psychics, he's just really good at making stuff up and getting one of his buddies stabbed in the face. He's so good that Pharaoh now wants him interpreting his dreams. When 2 full years had passed, Pharaoh had a dream. He was standing by the Nile when out of the river there came up 7 cows, sleek and fat, and they grazed among the reeds. After them, 7 other cows, ugly and gaunt, came up out of the Nile and stood beside those on the riverbank. And the cows that were ugly and gaunt ate up the 7 sleek, fat cows. Then Pharaoh woke up. The cows ate all the other cows.
That's what happens when you jump over the moon.
Genesis 41.
Joseph
has shown terrific. The gaunt cows, the hungry ones, ate the larger cows. I mean, so what? If all those cows were going to be slaughtered anyway, why should we be upset if the hungry cows got there first? Let them have some meat.
First of all, it's a dream. It's not real cows, so we shouldn't care at all whether they eat or not. Second of all, it's an interpretive prophetic dream, which means it has a meaning behind it, which is why the Pharaoh wanted it to be interpreted by the guy who seems to be able to interpret dreams. Not hard to understand, you know?
Before they're all killed for meat. That first sentence is really something, though. After 2 years, Pharaoh had a dream. What was he?
After 2 years, Pharaoh had a prophetic dream. He probably had lots of other dreams. They just weren't the kind that you had to have answers for.
Doing for 2 years? Not dreaming? Is that even possible? Or maybe he had dreams and they didn't matter. Just like this one. He fell asleep again and had a second dream. 7 heads of grain, healthy and good, were growing on a single stalk. After them, 7 other heads of grain sprouted, thin and scorched by the east wind.
Kind of like the kind of stuff that would be feeding the cattle, the types of cattle that would eat the type of grain. The slick, clean cattle would eat the healthy grain. The gaunt cattle would eat the bad grain. You start to see how these dreams are connected?
The thin heads of grain swallowed up the 7 healthy, full heads. Then Pharaoh woke up. It had been a dream. Oh, that was a dream? Glad they told me. I never would have guessed. I can't even picture this one. Some translations say this was 7 ears of corn. That's even harder to imagine.
Yeah, because the Aztec people invented corn. Corn is not a real vegetable. Corn came from maize, which came from a little tiny grass-looking plant that kind of looks like an ear of corn that was crossbred with other things to make corn. Corn didn't exist in those days. So your translations are wrong all the way around.
The thin corn ate the healthy corn? It's corn. It's not sentient. Can someone get Pharaoh some drugs or adult content so he has more interesting dreams? Is it weird that Joseph also had a dream about grain? His dream was about everyone being obedient to him. Pharaoh's dream is about granibalism. That was stupid.
That would be grainibalism, and yes, it was stupid, because they don't have mouths. This is obviously a metaphoric dream, meaning that the grain that was healthy got consumed by the grain that was not healthy. They just used the word ate up because it's metaphoric. In other words, it outgrew it.
In the morning, his mind was troubled, so he sent for all the magicians and wise men of Egypt. Pharaoh told them his dreams.
And he only needed one guy.
But no one could interpret them for him. He sent for the magicians? Why?
That word is magi, and it means pupils of the Eastern mystical schools. It doesn't mean person who performs magic in the way that we use the word magician. It is plural for magi.
So they could pull 7 rabbits out of a hat? How hard is it to interpret stuff? You can say anything. Well, Pharaoh, this just means you're amazing and your enemies will be devoured.
That would not be an interpretation. That would be a lie. It's obviously hard to interpret things if you want to get it right. If you say anything, you're not interpreting. You're telling a lie. I don't expect you to understand that since you spend most of your time doing the same thing. Ye of little faith, ye generation of vipers.
Magicians! Their whole thing is creating illusions. How could it possibly be hard for them to tell a fake story that's still convincing?
A magi is more akin to a professor than a magician. You see, that word didn't mean what we use it for today back then. It meant person who was educated in the mystical arts, meaning they attended mystery schools. They learned from people like Pythagoras, Herodotus. That's what a magi is. Don't know why you don't know that.
It's literally their job. Then the chief cupbearer said to Pharaoh, "Today I am reminded of my shortcomings."
The chief cupbearer, the guy that was in prison not too long ago, who got set out of jail because of the interpretation of a dream.
Pharaoh was once angry with his servants, and he imprisoned me and the chief baker in the house of the captain of the guard. Each of us had a dream the same night, and each dream had a meaning of its own. Now, a young Hebrew was there with us, a servant of the captain of the guard. We told him our dreams, and he interpreted them for us, giving each man the interpretation of his dream. And things turned out exactly as he interpreted them to us. I was restored to my position, and the other man was impaled. That's a very long way of saying, just get Joseph. Joseph does this sort of thing. Also, my friend is dead. You killed him. And look at the chief cupbearer.
Actually, the chief cupbearer is speaking to a pharaoh, talking about what another pharaoh did. This is a new pharaoh, not the same one. Think about what you just read. That being said, he did say, just get Joseph. Only he was saying it to a person who didn't know who Joseph was. This is called an introduction.
It took a couple of years, but he finally remembered Joseph. So all that dream interpreting from the last chapter paid off. So Pharaoh sent for Joseph, and he was quickly brought from the dungeon. When he had shaved and changed his clothes, he came before Pharaoh. They went down to fetch Joseph and said, "Dude, we need you upstairs to interpret Pharaoh's dream, and oh my God, look at you. Let's get you a shower first, maybe some new pants. Can't have you making stuff up looking like that." Here's some literary analysis for you. When Joseph was lowered into the water pit, his brothers removed his robe, his finest article of clothing. But now, as he's raised from the pit of the dungeon, he gets fancy new clothes. It all comes full circle. What does that mean? I don't know.
It means that people require clothing to go into public. That's all it means. I don't know why you're looking for some deeper meaning. They took his cloak because they were jealous of that cloak, and they wanted to use it to illustrate his death by dipping it in blood and saying, "Look what we found." Remember that? Now he's coming out of prison. He's got nasty rags on, probably the same ones he was thrown into prison with. So they want him to go before this new Pharaoh. They want to clean him up a little.
What am I, a magician? Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I had a dream, and no one can interpret it. But I have heard it said of you that when you hear a dream, you can interpret it." "I cannot do it," Joseph replied to Pharaoh.
Now remember, the Pharaoh was the guy that put him in prison. It was the Pharaoh's wife who caused that. This guy has never met Joseph. This is a new Pharaoh.
But God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires. Look at that cockiness. Moi, humble little me, sucks at interpreting dreams. But give me a chance and God will speak through me. So don't question anything I say, no matter how stupid it sounds, or else you're really just angering the Lord. That also means if Pharaoh hates the interpretation, Joseph has plausible deniability. Don't blame me, I'm just the messenger. Now, a normal book would jump right to Joseph interpreting the dreams.
This is not a normal book. This is the Holy Bible. Should be reverenced as such.
But this is the Bible, the worst book ever written. So Pharaoh is going...
Really? Show me one better. Anyone. Name one. Can't do it.
Going to repeat his stupid dreams. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "In my dream, I was standing on the bank of the Nile, when out of the river there came up 7 cows, fat and sleek, and they grazed among the reeds. After them, 7 other cows came up, scrawny and very ugly and lean. I had never seen such ugly cows in all the land of Egypt. The lean, ugly cows ate up the 7 fat cows that came up first. But even after they ate them, no one could tell that they had done so. They looked just as ugly as before. Then I woke up." What's with the commentary? There were these ugly cows. Super ugly. Then the ugly cows ate the fat cows, but they were still ugly. Yeah, that's how it works. Eating one meal doesn't change your outward appearance. In my dream, I saw
It does if it's the size of a cow.
7 heads of grain, full and good, growing on a single stalk. After them, 7 other heads sprouted, withered and thin and scorched by the east wind. The thin heads of grain swallowed up the 7 good heads. I told this to the magicians, but none of them could explain it to me. I had a weird dream, and I asked the football team what it meant, and they didn't know. Of course they didn't. That's not their job. Why would magicians be any better at psychoanalysis? But okay, Joseph.
Because they're educated, and they're the people that are supposed to have answers like that. Why else would he call on them? You know?
Let's hear what God has to say. Then Joseph said to Pharaoh, "The dreams of Pharaoh are one and the same. God has revealed to Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good heads of grain are 7 years. It is one and the same dream. The 7 lean, ugly cows that came up afterward are 7 years, and so are the 7 worthless heads of grain scorched by the east wind. They are 7 years of famine." It does not take God to do all this. Joseph just takes a number and he changes it to time. Oh, 3 branches? That means 3 days. Oh, 7 ugly cows? That's totally 7 years. I wonder if he paused before speaking.
Well, considering that it's on record that Egypt, in fact, went through 7 years of famine at about that time, I would say he got it right. And so they do. 7 years of famine. This is what makes Egypt a great place. This is what builds the height of its power, because he was prepared for that famine, and all the land had to come to him to get grain. He set up his own empire just by being prepared. That was a message from God. That was God allowing him to win.
Did he milk the moment like a sketchy televangelist? Oh, that's a tough dream. Wow. Oh, it'll take a miracle to interpret it. Wait. Something's coming to me. I can feel it working. I hope you have your checkbook ready. 7 years is enough time that Joseph may be able to get the hell out of there in case he's wrong. Way smarter than saying 7 days and having the lie catch up to him. It is just as I said to Pharaoh. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do.
Joseph stayed there during the famine in the Pharaoh's company. He wasn't trying to get out of Dodge, so your theory's wrong.
7 years of great abundance are coming throughout the land of Egypt, but 7 years of famine will follow them. Then all the abundance in Egypt will be forgotten, and the famine will ravage the land. The abundance in the land will not be remembered because the famine that follows it will be so severe. The reason the dream was given to Pharaoh in 2 forms is that the matter has been firmly decided.
By the way, if you go to Egypt right now and get in good with the tour guides and ask them to give you the tour that isn't on the beaten path, they will take you to a place that's not open to the public, which has 9 storehouses that are tunnels dig straight down into the earth with platforms that go all the way up. They're very deep. They're like 100, 200 feet deep. 9 storehouses that were for keeping grain. These are the storehouses that Joseph had the Pharaoh build for keeping grain to survive this famine. So there's physical evidence and written evidence that this occurred. So Joseph most definitely got it right. And if you want to go to Egypt and look for Joseph's name, it's all over the place. You just have to understand that it's written in Egyptian. And his name is Imhotep. Imhotep. He was the builder, the architect. He had some medical knowledge. He had some spiritual knowledge. He was second only to the Pharaoh. He had most power in the land except for Pharaoh. That is Joseph.
Decided by God, and God will do it soon. It was so obvious. Ugly cows equals famine. Thin heads of grain equals famine. That's like living in southern Florida and saying everyone's bad dreams means there's a hurricane coming. You won't go wrong. Look at those last lines. You had two similar dreams because the famine is super duper coming. Yeah, that's it. Don't like it? Blame God. But Joseph isn't done yet. He's clever. He's setting himself up for success, and he'll say anything not to go back to the dungeon.
Actually, God is setting him up for success because God put this whole thing in motion by giving the Pharaoh the dreams in the first place, knowing that Joseph would be summoned to interpret them. God wants Joseph in a high status position so that he can rule the land.
And now let Pharaoh look for a discerning and wise man and put him in charge of the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh appoint commissioners over the land to take a fifth of the harvest of Egypt during the 7 years of abundance. They should collect all the food of these good years that are coming and store up the grain under the authority of Pharaoh to be kept in the cities for food. This food should be held in reserve for the country, to be used during the 7 years of famine that will come upon Egypt, so that the country may not be ruined by the famine. Joseph's like, raise taxes now so we can have a budget surplus. We're gonna need it. And make sure you have someone smart and wise and me and put him in charge. What he's suggesting, though, isn't rocket science. If there's a famine in the future, of course you should save up food now. You're telling me no one else could have figured that out? None of them.
No one else saw the famine coming because if you read earlier, they were living in abundance. They were at the height of their game at this time. No one would have seen a famine coming. Also, he didn't tell him to save food. He told him to save all the food and store it up in storehouses and raise taxes so that they would have money. He set Egypt up to be the only people to survive the famine. And because they survived, they allowed everyone else to feed off of the teat, so to speak, and they survived, making Egypt the best place, the highest place.
Magicians? The plan seemed good to Pharaoh and to all his officials. So Pharaoh asked them, "Can we find anyone like this man, one in whom is the Spirit of God?" "Yeah. Can we find anyone like Joseph, the guy standing right here? Do we have anyone like him around?" You know Joseph's looking around like he totally doesn't know what's coming. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Since God has made all this known to you, there is no one so discerning and wise as you. You shall be in charge of my palace, and all my people are to submit to your orders. Only with respect to the throne will I be greater than you." The plan worked. He'll get to shave every day now. So Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I hereby put you in charge of the whole land of Egypt." Then Pharaoh took his signet ring from his finger and put it on Joseph's finger. He dressed him in robes of fine linen and put a gold chain around his neck. He had him ride in a chariot as his second in command, and people shouted before him, "Make way!" Thus he put him in charge of the whole land of Egypt. Joseph is now in charge of Egypt, and all he's doing is riding shotgun in a chariot, wearing expensive clothes and jewelry, and doing no real work.
You don't know that. First of all, he's the guy that designed the storehouses. He also designed several other things, including quite possibly the Great Pyramid. And also, that's a pretty choice place to be, riding shotgun to the Pharaoh. If you lived in Egypt, that's the place you'd want to be. Promise.
He is everything wrong with government. Hey, I had a dream in which 2 ugly cows ate 2 very rich and lazy cows. What does that mean, Joseph? Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I am Pharaoh, but without
It means you're jealous of Joseph and other rich people. That's what it means.
Your word, no one will lift hand or foot in all Egypt. Pharaoh gave Joseph the name Zaphenath-Paneah, and gave him Asenath, daughter of Potipharah, priest of On, to be his wife. And Joseph went throughout the land of Egypt. Wow, I was totally gonna name my next kid Zaphenath-Paneah. That would have been...
What's impossible, April? What do you find impossible? Also, notice that the Pharaoh changed his name. Oh, about the cow comment? He's being sarcastic. He was saying that he dreamed that him, a poor cow, ate rich fat cows, meaning the government. It was a joke, and he basically just showed his own hand because he's jealous of the success of the government and of Joseph, whom became Imhotep, pronounced a little differently in ancient Hebrew, but that's what it is. And also, Joseph's tomb is in Egypt to this day, and you can find it. And he's under a little pyramid. It's actually kind of telling.
awkward. Once again, we are introduced to a woman who has no real identity other than she's now the property of a man.
Didn't they give her name just then? That was her name. So your theory doesn't hold water.
We're not told of any consent. We're not told her age. We're not told if she even likes Joseph.
What difference does that make? We're talking about an arranged marriage. It's about power. It's not about love. That's not what people married for in those days, especially in royal families. Royal families don't have that luxury. They marry for power and status. Doesn't matter if she likes him or not. Doesn't matter if she wants to or not. He's the guy. She's Pharaoh's daughter. 2 and 2. Now they're the couple. If ever I go to Egypt, I doubt I ever make it there. Yeah, I wouldn't want to go there right now anyway because of all the war that's going on in that region and all the uncertainty. But there are plenty of pictures online, and you can just about tour all of Egypt just by watching videos if you know where to look. And there's some fascinating things in Egypt, by the way. All you have to do is understand the proper timeline, and you'll understand why all of these things are there. Now, they've tried very hard over the years to hide the actual timeline and to eschew it by changing BC to BCE and by moving the dates so that they don't line up with the Bible. But everything that's mentioned in the Bible is there in Egypt, right where it's supposed to be. And everything that's throughout history tells the story of what happened after the Pharaoh died in the flood. You know, the parting of the Red Sea, when it came back together. And that's when the height of the power of Egypt failed. After that, they didn't fare so well for a long time. And they still aren't doing very well these days. And also, the Egyptians that are in Egypt right now are not Egyptians. They're not the same people. They're different people. That whole country has been subjugated, taken over by other cultures. And it started back in the Ptolemy period and a little bit before that, where the Romans took over. And now there's a whole group of people living in Egypt that aren't from Egypt proper. That's not their heritage. I don't know what happened to the actual Egyptian people. They may have even died out. That may have been all of them died, right there in the Red Sea. I don't know. There is no war in Egypt, but they are not nice to Americans. I believe we are headed for war somewhere. There's no war at this moment. There has been lots of little civil wars going on in that area, though. I said that region, not just Egypt. but they are ran by the Muslim Brotherhood, and their president has been dethroned, as it were. I think he's still in power, but he has no actual power because he answers to the Muslim Brotherhood. And it's not a very good place to be. And no, they're not very nice to Americans. They are nice to tourists, but if you get off the beaten path, you'll be mugged and probably killed. It's not a very good place to visit at this moment. Egypt or Israel or anywhere over in that region, stay out of that area. If we are as close to the end times as I think we are, that is not the part of the world anybody needs to be. Because the things that are going to go bad are going to go bad in that direction and end up there. And I'm never going. I would never go either. I'd love to have went, but it's too late for that right now. Now, we may come up on a time of peace later on, and if that happens, then it'll be okay to go visit for a little while, but you can get just as much by watching videos and looking at pictures. It's not quite as good as the real thing, but you'll get an idea of what's there anyway.
So typical. And wait, when Joseph was sold into slavery, he was sold to Potiphar, whose wife, I don't know her name, so let's just call her Becky Falwell, tried seducing him. And now he's marrying the daughter of Potiphera, who's apparently a completely different guy.
Right.
How do you have names like Zaphenath-Paneah and still find a near duplicate? Joseph was 30 years old when he entered the service of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and Joseph went out from Pharaoh's presence and traveled throughout Egypt. During the 7 years of abundance, the land produced plentifully. Joseph collected all the food produced in those 7 years of abundance in Egypt and stored it in the cities. In each city, he put the food grown in the fields surrounding it. Joseph stored up huge quantities of grain, like the sand of the sea. It was so much that he stopped keeping records because it was beyond measure. What a crappy way to spend your 30s. You have no kids. You have a new wife. Go travel. Go be interesting. This guy's just walking around collecting grain. And then
from multiple cities. He is traveling, and that is quite interesting.
When he's done, he just keeps collecting grain. Before the years of famine came, 2 sons were born to Joseph by Asenath, daughter.
And he's having children, so there's your trifecta.
Of Potiphera, priest of On. Joseph named his firstborn Manasseh, and said, "It is because God has made me forget all my trouble and all my father's household." The second son he named Ephraim, and said, "It is because God has made me fruitful in the land of my suffering." What? You're having kids before the famine? That's like getting pregnant 9 months before the pandemic. It's the worst possible time.
Well, you didn't know the pandemic was coming, did you? So you could only make that decision in hindsight. Well, he knew that the famine was coming, and he knew that he would survive it because God was on his side. All that boring, running around collecting grain that he was doing was preparing him for surviving the famine coming up. So he's not worried about it. Why should you be?
And Joseph knew what was coming. What the hell is he doing? The 7 years of abundance in Egypt came to an end, and the 7 years of famine began, just as Joseph had said.
Imagine that. It's almost like it was planned that way, isn't it?
There was famine in all the other lands, but in the whole land of Egypt there was food. When all Egypt began to feel the famine, the people cried to Pharaoh for food. Then Pharaoh told all the Egyptians, "Go to Joseph and do what he tells you." Just feed them, Pharaoh. This isn't complicated. You don't...
That's what he's doing. Joseph is in charge. It's Joseph's responsibility. So he says, go to Joseph and do whatever he says do. Which will more than likely be, go here and get your grain.
Need a right-hand wise man to figure this out. When the famine had spread over the whole country, Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold grain to the Egyptians, for the famine was severe throughout Egypt. And all the world came to Egypt to buy grain from Joseph.
See, he didn't give it away. There's no free Medicare. There's no stimulus check. What there is capitalism. He sells the grain because people have grain and money, but they can't eat money. So they give him money, and he gives them grain, and Egypt becomes the most powerful country on earth, and everybody gets fed. It's win-win.
Because the famine was severe everywhere. Leave it to a wealthy leader to sell grain to his own people during a
Oh, he's such a mean bastard that they ate.
famine. Just give it to them.
Why?
They grew it, you took it, just give it back.
Why? So that they can eat for a day and then starve to death because they have no incentive to keep working because they think you'll keep feeding them for free. That's not how life works. There's no such thing as a free meal ticket. You have to work for your food. In a famine, you have to pay for your food. Quit being lazy.
Stop trying to profit from it just so you can buy another chariot. And really, all the world came to Egypt?
Yes.
How? Did
Probably by chariot.
the Australians take a plane? What if you
They took a boat, moron.
couldn't make it to Egypt?
Then you starved.
That would mean God just killed off a whole bunch of people.
No, because he made it possible for them to be fed. If they died, it's because of their actions, or stubbornness, or willingness to want something for nothing, like you.
This is like a quiet genocide. And that's not even the focus of this story, because Joseph is just getting rich by selling them the grain they grew.
Egypt is getting rich by selling them grain that they grew. Joseph is getting wealthy by proxy, but he's not making the money, he's just collecting it.
Joseph is really the quintessential con man. He saved his own life and got rich by telling people with more power exactly what they wanted to hear. Then he collected food from people and is now selling it back to them.
How you reckon he managed to come by that knowledge? Being a poor man who spent his life in prison before now. He's not educated. He is a good man, but he's not an educated man. So how did he get that economical knowledge to save an entire country? God gave it to him.
What's next? Is he gonna open up a sham university and start selling steak?
Oh,
Genesis 41.
You are so jealous, and you can't stand the fact that Donald Trump was the president. You can't not bring it up. He's in your head. He lives in your head rent-free. You should probably look into that. I would say that you'd probably do better if you could get him out of your head and think for yourself. I don't see that happening, though.
Genesis 42. When we left off, Joseph was selling off the grain he had gotten everyone in Egypt to save up because he predicted a famine.
Yeah.
Good business if you have the resources and no conscience.
God predicted the famine. He's the messenger, remember? And also, it's conscience that allowed him to save these people. They could have just starved to death. He could have not warned anybody. He could have kept all that grain for himself. He chose to sell it. That's called a conscience.
But you know who needs food? The brothers who tried to kill him. Get ready for an awkward reunion. When Jacob learned that there was grain in Egypt, he said to his sons, "Why do you just keep looking at each other?" He continued, I have heard that there is grain in Egypt. Go down there and buy some for us so that we may live and not die. These 11 brothers are so dumb. Their daddy has to tell them to get food because they have to be told living is better than death.
Yeah, that's usually the way a liberal thinks, you understand? They just sit and wait for a handout. They don't get up and actually do anything. They don't earn a living. They just wait. Or they apply for welfare. Or they just wait until somebody sends them a check. Or they starve to death. That's not God's fault. That's your fault. You ever heard the expression, pull yourself up by your bootstraps? There's a reason why that's an expression, and there's a reason why it offends people like you.
I cannot get over the mental image of 11 brothers who do nothing but sit around and look at each other.
When did selling something and making a profit become evil? When a Democrat decided that they should get it for free. That's when. You demonize the people who are trying to help you, villainize them, and then cancel them, and then bitch because you don't have the thing that they were offering you in the first place. And then expect someone else to provide it. That's how it works. When you start giving away welfare, you end up like Venezuela, who started out as a fat, second most richest country in the world, and then ended up fighting in the streets over toilet paper because of liberalism. Communism always ends in starvation and genocide. Capitalism makes you the greatest nation in the world. Capitalism under God, I might add. This nation under God is the reason we were the greatest nation in the world. Now we are the most Chinese nation under the world, coming soon to a town near you. Write it down that it was said.
That's what life was like, kids, before iPhones were invented. In case you've forgotten, Jacob thinks his son Joseph was devoured by an animal.
Yep.
That was back in Genesis 37. Little does he know Joseph has taken on a side hustle as dream interpreter and guy who basically runs all of Egypt.
Yeah, but be careful because I'm poisoning your mind, according to some Democrat.
Then 10 of Joseph's brothers went down to buy grain from Egypt. But Jacob did not send Benjamin, Joseph's brother, with the others, because he was afraid that harm might come to him. So Israel's sons were among those who went to buy grain, for there was famine in the land of Canaan also. Really? We're now using Jacob and Israel in the same passage? Pick a name! Okay.
His name is Jacob. His title is Israel. Also, the group of people that follow him around will be called Israel, and they will wander for a long time, and then they will settle in a land which will also be called Israel, because the word Israel means to wrestle with God. It is a title bestowed upon Jacob's house, stemming from Jacob. His father named him Jacob. That is his name. His father gave him the title Israel.
Here, I'll help. Jacob, Israel, Jizreel. Boom. Why are we not sending Benjamin? He's the youngest child, but what harm would come to him when they're going to buy grain? Are we afraid he'll get buried in a silo?
Well, considering it happened to his first son, I would say that he's probably being cautious.
How little trust do you have in your kids when you can't even allow your youngest to go out with his brothers? Now Joseph was the governor of the land, the person who sold grain to all its people. So when Joseph's brothers arrived, they bowed down to him with their faces to the ground. As soon as Joseph saw his brothers, he recognized them. But he pretended to be a stranger and spoke harshly to them. "Where do you come from?" he asked. "From the land of Canaan," they replied, "to buy food." Although Joseph recognized his brothers, they did not recognize him.
No, because they weren't looking for his brother. in the leadership position of Egypt. They wouldn't have expected him to be there. They thought he probably died in that cistern. Remember, it was his other brother that got him out and sold him into slavery. So who knows what they thought, but they weren't looking for him there, for sure.
Joseph recognized all of them, but they didn't recognize him. How does that happen?
Because Joseph was, number one, clean-shaven. Number two, dressed in very silky, very expensive clothing. Number three, he was in charge, which is not a place that a low Hebrew would be. Lots of reasons why they didn't recognize him. Number four, because their faces were in the dirt as they bowed before him. They probably never even looked at him because they were scared to make eye contact with the ruler. There's lots of reasons why they didn't recognize him.
10 brothers? No one figures it out? They're all dumb. Which we should have guessed, since all they do is stare at each other all day. Joseph didn't even seem to change his voice or anything. You know he's already plotting revenge, though. The last time he saw these guys...
Didn't the Bible say that he spoke harshly to them? That could be considered as changing his voice.
They left him for dead in a water tank, then sold him into slavery. Why is Joseph the guy selling the grain? When you're the head of everything, you don't need to work the cash register. Jeff Bezos isn't personally delivering your Amazon packages.
You have no idea what Jeff Bezos is doing or how long he's done it. You are just reaching. You have no actual knowledge of what these things are. And also, he was charged with selling the grain. So yes, he would be.
Then he remembered his dreams about them and said to them, "You are spies. You have come to see where our land is unprotected." The hell? What dreams is he having now? I don't remember hearing about these.
Yes, you do. When he was a child, he dreamed that all of his brothers would be bowing down to him. This is it coming to pass. And now he's playing with them. He doesn't actually think they're spies. He's messing with their heads. Because his dream came true. Now they're all bowing down to him.
Dreams? When he dreamed about his brothers, it was about them bowing down to him, not spying on him. No, my...
Where are they right now? At this very moment in the story, where are they? With their faces in the dirt, bowing down to him. Right. Jeff is a bad guy because he sells stuff on Amazon and makes a profit. According to this guy, yeah.
Lord, they answered, your servants have come to buy food. We are all the sons of one man. Your servants are honest men, not spies. You know, usually when 10 guys talk simultaneously, it's a safe bet that they're from the same family. No, he said to them, you have come to see where our land is unprotected. Fights between siblings are always over the dumbest things. Here's the thing. The brothers know they are not spies. Joseph knows they are not spies. But we're all just gonna keep this charade going. Because whoever wrote the Bible was paid by the word, I assume.
No, because this is the way these events unfolded. And because Joseph is having a little fun at his brother's expense, considering what they put him through. That's all.
But they replied, your servants were 12 brothers, the sons of one man, who lives in the land of Canaan. The youngest is now with our father, and one is no more. They're totally walking into a trap. I just want Joseph to milk this. Oh, really?
Aren't you just complaining about him milking it? Make up your mind, man. Either you like it or you don't like it. You can't have it both ways.
No more, you say? Tell me about this missing brother. But that's not quite what Joseph says. He's gonna take his sweet time getting revenge, Count of Monte Cristo style. Joseph said to them, it is just as I told you. You are spies, and this is how you will be tested. As surely as Pharaoh lives, you will not leave this place unless your youngest brother comes here. Send one of your number to get your brother. The rest of you will be kept in prison so that your words may be tested to see if you are telling the truth. If you are not, then as surely as Pharaoh lives, you are spies. And he put them all in custody for 3 days. See? I told you Benjamin should have just come with them. This would be over if he were there already. Joseph knows they're telling the truth.
Yeah.
What is the point of having one of them walk back home and drag Benjamin into this?
Well, you see, he wants to put them in jail for 3 days because they got him in jail for a long time. He's not giving them actually what they deserve. He's just toying with them a little. He actually loves his brothers and is happy to see them. And he will get his whole family together and get them all in one place. And then he will take care of them for the rest of their lives. Because he's a good man and he isn't holding a grudge. But he's going to get a little revenge first. This is obvious. Come on, man.
It is such a waste of everyone's time. Just make them wash the dishes or something for a while. Clean up Egypt, call it a day. On the third day, Joseph said to them, "Do this, and you will live, for I fear God. If you are honest men, let one of your brothers stay here in prison, while the rest of you go and take grain back for your starving households. But you must bring your youngest brother to me, so that your words may be verified, and that you may not die." This they proceeded to do. A hostage. Joseph is keeping a hostage. How has no one figured out he's their cocky little brother who annoyed them all when they were younger? Seems like he's the same dude, just all grown up. There is some weird rationale, though, for Joseph wanting to see how Benjamin is doing. His half-brothers over here nearly killed him. Maybe they did the same to his brother, so he may just want to see if his sibling, his only full sibling, is doing okay. They said to one another, "Surely we are being punished because of our brother. We saw how distressed he was when he pleaded with us for his life, but we would not listen. That's why this distress has come on us." Oh yeah, you are totally being punished because of what you did to Joseph. By Joseph. It's interesting how they say they know how distressed he was and how he was pleading for his life when they threw him in a pit.
Yeah, that's called shame. You should try it.
Because the original verses in which they did that did not include Joseph's reactions. It's almost like the Bible's writers forgot to mention that at the time for some reason. But
probably because it's obvious. Anybody who was being thrown into a pit by their own siblings would be pleading for their life and distressed. It's obvious. It's not necessary to be written.
the Bible is very clear about this. Don't try to murder your brother. It's not a good idea. Let's just pretend Genesis 4 never happened. Reuben replied, "Didn't I tell you not to sin against the boy? But you wouldn't listen. Now we must give an accounting for his blood." They did not realize that Joseph could understand them, since he was using an interpreter. Well, they're all speaking modern English, so couldn't have been that hard.
Actually, you're reading a translation, you idiot. They were speaking Hebrew. He was speaking Egyptian, another reason they wouldn't recognize him, and having it translated to Hebrew for them. They didn't realize he spoke Hebrew. So while they're communicating amongst themselves, he can understand every word they're saying.
And I love that Reuben is taking the "I told you so" approach years and years after he tried to rescue Joseph. How long has he been holding that one in? He turned away from them and began to weep, but then came back and spoke to them again. He had Simeon taken from them and bound before their eyes. You know what? Good. I don't like Simeon. He was one of the brothers who tricked an entire city into getting circumcised before committing genocide against all of them. He deserves to be locked up for something.
Because they brutally raped his sister. That's why he did that. I don't know if he's justified in his actions, but I would do the same. So,
by the way, this is the first of a few times when Joseph is moved to tears by his brothers. This one's just a small weep, but it will escalate. Joseph gave orders to fill their bags with grain, to put each man's silver back in his sack, and to give them provisions for their journey. After this was done for them, they loaded their grain on their donkeys and left. At the place where they stopped for the night, one of them opened his sack to get feed for his donkey, and he saw his silver in the mouth of his sack.
See, they didn't realize that they were given their grain for free.
"My silver has been returned," he said to his brothers. "Here it is, in my sack." Their hearts sank, and they turned to each other trembling and said, "What is this that God has done to us?" This is the worst magic trick ever, and these idiot brothers still can't figure it out. Why is this scary? You have grain and money now.
Why is this scary? Well, because if they were normal people, and they were perceived to have stolen from the Pharaoh, they would be hunted down by Pharaoh's army and have their heads chopped off, and then paraded around in the streets so that no one else would steal from the Pharaoh. That's why they were scared. They didn't realize that that's Joseph and he's playing with them. They also didn't realize that he gave them the grain for free and is going to take care of them for the rest of their lives for free. Right now, he's just trying to get all of his family together and in one place to get them back to Egypt where he can take care of them. But yeah, the reason they were scared is because they were worried they would be perceived as thieves and have their heads chopped off. And they would also be looking to see the Pharaoh's army coming over the hill at every turn. They would be terrified.
You won. It's fine. Also, I never want to hear a man say to his brothers, "Guys, look at my sack." When they came to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan, they told him all that had happened to them. They said, "The man who is lord over the land spoke harshly to us and treated us as though we were spying on the land. But we said to him, 'We are honest men. We are not spies. We were 12 brothers, sons of one father. One is no more, and the youngest is now with our father in Canaan.'" Why does their father need to be reminded about what happened to his sons? That makes about as much sense as each brother going around and introducing themselves.
They don't need to be reminded. They're telling a story about what happened, and that's what happened. He's not being reminded. He's being told a story.
It's Jacob. He doesn't need your life history. Just get on with it. Then the man who is lord over the land said to us, "This is how I will know whether you are honest men. Leave one of your brothers here with me, and take food for your starving households and go."
What does that mean, April? Man, woman? Sissy boy? This guy's really a girl? What does that mean? I've seen you make that symbol several times. What's it mean? Let me know what that means. I'll keep going.
"But bring your youngest brother to me, so I will know that you are not spies, but honest men. Then I will give your brother back to you, and you can trade in the land." Do you think Jacob is
I still don't know what it means. That's the girl symbol. And I guess that's a boy. I can't really tell. Got short hair anyway. I just wondered what it meant because I've seen you do it several times, but I don't know what it means. I'm guessing it's an accolade of some kind. I just don't read emoji.
thinking, "There's no way I'm giving up my favorite child to you people. I will sacrifice the 10 of you before I let you have this one. I'm keeping him." As they were emptying their sacks, there in each man's sack was his pouch of silver. When they and their father saw the money pouches, they were frightened. Their father Jacob said to them, "You have deprived me of my children. Joseph is no more, and Simeon is no more, and now you want to take Benjamin. Everything is against me." You know, given everything Jacob did to Esau, I would say this is just karma. And when the first brother found silver in his sack, Why didn't all the other brothers check theirs immediately too? You're telling me they found out one brother got his money back and thought, interesting. Well, let's keep walking with these unusually heavy bags. Unless they did check, but then decided to save the big surprise for when Jacob was watching because it was more dramatic that way. Then Reuben said,
Wouldn't be the first time somebody did something for the sake of drama.
To his father, "You may put both of my sons to death if I do not bring him back to you, and trust him to my care, and I will bring him back." That's quite the offer there. If I don't protect your favorite son, you may slaughter 2 of your grandkids. Won't that make you feel better? It's such a horrible thing to say after Jacob has just been lamenting losing his kids. Now Reuben is responding with, "Okay, I hear you, but do you want to lose 2 more? I kind of want to hear about what those 2 sons feel about this little deal Daddy is making. How does it feel to be sacrificed like that?" I love how Slate's David Plotz summarized this. One son is offering 2 grandsons so he can take another son back to an estranged son in order to bail out another son. This family needs therapy. Don't worry.
I'm not denying that, but that's the way it happens, so...
By the end of Genesis, Jacob will hate Reuben. But Jacob said, "My son will not go down there with you. His brother is dead, and he is the only one left. If harm comes to him on the journey you are taking, you will bring my gray head down to the grave in sorrow." Oh, damn. Now Simeon is screwed because he's just sitting in jail. What's up with Jacob refusing to hand over Benjamin, though? Simeon's life is on the line here. So
you see, he had 12 sons, but only 2 of them were birthed by the one woman he loved the most. The other sons are sons of concubines and second wives. But the woman he truly loved birthed those 2 sons, and one of them is dead. So you see, he's not about to give up the other one. That's the only reminder he has left. That's why.
Jacob really is saying, let him die. I'm keeping this one. And what does it mean when Jacob says he's the only one left? He's saying,
well, I just told you. And in those days, bloodline meant a lot. So he's the only one left of that bloodline. And he doesn't want to lose him. So he's overprotective, much like most people are of their youngest child, while the other one just kind of gets handed off to whoever, because the newness is wore off of being a parent. But you're young, your little baby, you protect that. It's just nature. I'm not saying it's right, but that's how people are.
Saying this to another one of his sons, or should I say sons, since he
grown son who knows the world. Fathers often loop their children in when they get old enough, when they learn that their daddy ain't Superman and that he's a real human being with real issues. When they become part of the family, they learn things. That's all that's going on here.
Even Jacob doesn't seem to count them as such. I do appreciate these Bible chapters that end on a cliffhanger, but I still can't quite figure out what Joseph's game plan is here. I don't think he wants to murder his family, but in a little bit he may have no choice. How will he get out of this one?
His game plan is to keep his family alive. He's not trying to murder them. He's trying to keep them all alive, as you would do, you know.
Genesis 43. Jacob/Israel/Jezreel is refusing to hand over his youngest son Benjamin as proof to the guy in Egypt with all the food that Jacob's other sons are not spies. Without Benjamin, brother Simeon will remain in prison, maybe even die. But
nobody's going to keep him in prison. Remember, the guy that put him there is his brother, and he's messing with them. This isn't as serious as they think it is.
Realizes that the guy in Egypt with all the food is their long-lost family member, Joseph. Now the famine was still severe in the land. So when they had eaten all the grain they had brought from Egypt, their father said to them, "Go back and buy us a little more food." They're still home? Simeon is in jail. He assumed his brothers would be returning with Benjamin, but no. They've just been home for who knows how long, just eating food. All of it. I mean,
Well, there were, 10 of them? And they each had a sack of grain? So, a couple weeks.
these brothers are awful, but even the dad? But Judah said to him, "The man warned us solemnly, 'You will not see my face again unless your brother is with you.' If you will send our brother along with us, we will go down and buy food for you. But if you will not send him, we will not go down, because the man said to us, 'You will not see my face again unless your brother is with you.'" Judah knows they will all be slaughtered if they return without the youngest boy. And he's trying to tell his father, "Daddy, please don't let the scary man murder us." Look at his argument, too. "Just give us Benjamin. We'll go back and we'll bring you food." Not, "We'll bring back Simeon, your son who's currently rotting in jail," but food. No one cares about Simeon. I'm glad Judah is reminding Jezreel what the stakes are and why taking Benjamin is vital, but how would Jezreel not know? It was the climax of the previous chapter. It just happened a few sentences ago. Israel asked, "Why did you bring this trouble on me by telling the man you had another brother?" He is such an Indian father. His kids are like, "Daddy, the bad man will hurt us." And his response is, "Well, why are you all so stupid?" Also, who cares what they told Joseph? There's a famine. This guy in Egypt has all the food. If he asks a question that seems harmless, you answer it. You don't argue with him. Jezreel apparently wanted them to haggle. Like I said, Indian father.
Actually, what he wanted was for them to keep their mouths shut about details that aren't necessary for Joseph to know. Because that's how you do business in a world full of backstabbers. You keep things close to your chest unless you have to reveal them. But you don't just go blurting out your family's business to everybody. That's what he was saying. I feel the same way. I don't want my kids blurting their mouth off about what happens at my house. Even though I'm not hiding anything, I still don't want everybody knowing my business, or my habits, or my travel routes, or anything else of that nature. This is not abnormal. This is the way that smart people conduct themselves.
They replied, "The man questioned us closely about ourselves and our family. 'Is your father still living?' he asked us. 'Do you have another brother?' We simply answered his questions."
All questions he already knew the answers to, by the way, just so you know.
How were we to know he would say, "Bring your brother down here"? "Yeah, Daddy. We just told the stranger everything he wanted to know about us because he offered us food, and then we got into his white van. Who knew that wouldn't end well?"
Sports update. And big surprise. Cleveland Browns 28, Pittsburgh Steelers nothing.
By the way, they're lying. Joseph didn't ask those questions. The brothers volunteered that information. Then Judah said to Israel, his father, "Send the boy along with me, and we will go at once, so that we and you and our children may live and not die. I myself will guarantee his safety. You can hold me personally responsible for him. If I do not bring him back to you and set him here before you, I will bear the blame before you all my life. As it is, if we had not delayed, we could have gone and returned twice." I love that last line.
So that tells you how long they've been home. The value of 2 trips worth, however long it took them to get there the first time and back. That's how long they've been home. Twice that long. So there's the answer to your question. And also,
We're in a potential life and death situation, and Judah's just rubbing it in. If you just listened to us the first time, we would have been back already, and then gone back for thirds. But
go April.
this supposed sacrifice doesn't mean much, because Reuben basically said the same thing in the previous chapter. He even offered up his 2 kids, telling Jacob he could kill them if Reuben didn't come back with Benjamin.
Yeah, it's kind of funny when you get hungry, what you'll do, the limits you'll go to not be hungry anymore. Kind of strange.
By comparison, Judah's offer is nothing.
You've never been hungry, though, because you live in a capitalist country who sees to it that you don't go hungry.
You can blame me forever if I don't return with your child. Like, that's it? I mean, at least offer your left leg or half a testicle or something useful. Then their father Israel said to them, "If it must be, then do this. Put some of the best products of the land in your bags and take them down to the man as a gift. A little balm and a little honey, some spices and myrrh, some pistachio nuts and almonds. Take double the amount of silver with you, for you must return the silver that was put back into the mouths of your sacks. Perhaps it was a mistake. Take your brother also, and go back to the man at once. And may God Almighty grant you mercy before the man, so that he will let your other brother and Benjamin come back with you. As for me, if I am bereaved, I am bereaved." Well, damn, that's overboard. Benjamin would have been enough, but Jezreel is telling them to take Benjamin, take extra cash, take some food as a gift, bow down to the man like he's your savior, and if I lose a child, then I lose a child.
Yes, because in those days you could get a long way with a gift. Half a testicle is useful. I had the same thought. What are you talking about? That's not useful at all. Sell it and make a profit. That's right. In those days, you could bribe your way out of trouble by offering an offering. So what he's doing is trying to hedge his bets by making sure that they have enough to bribe their way out of getting murdered and possibly returning all their sons, all his sons. And what he said was, if I'm bereaved, I'm bereaved. That's not saying, oh, well, whatever happens, happens. That's saying I'm too old to fight. You've been pestering me for 2 weeks. Take the boy, and whatever happens will happen. But I may not survive losing another child.
Talk about a guilt trip. Indian parents, man. Where is he getting this honey and spices and nuts from anyway? Are they hoarding food during a famine?
Probably, because that's what you do during a famine to survive it.
At least he finally remembered Simeon. So the men took the gifts and double the amount of silver, and Benjamin also. They hurried down to Egypt and presented themselves to Joseph. When Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the steward of his house, "Take these men to my house, slaughter an animal, and prepare a meal. They are to eat with me at noon." They took gifts and money and a human child too, like an afterthought. And what's with that line, "they hurried down to Egypt"?
It wasn't an afterthought. It was the entire thought. That's what they've been pestering their dad about for 2 weeks. The human child. The guy that was requested. It's not, they weren't taking a sacrifice. Joseph requested to see him. So they're doing what they were asked to do. Half a testicle is not what God wants as an offering. I'm just saying. Also, God doesn't take kindly to his way of calling Israel. This is the one country we should respect and stand behind. Amen.
It's not a neighbor's house. It's a different country. Going from Canaan to Egypt is a trip of hundreds of miles minimum. That statement from Joseph is cryptic, though. He should have said, "Oh, I guess you're not spies, and you were being honest with me. Let me release your brother Simeon, and you can all go home."
Remember, he doesn't actually think that they're spies, so why would he think to say that? He's glad that his whole family is there now. Now he's going to feed them and take care of them.
Instead, he's like, "Oh, it's you and the boy. Someone stab a goat. These men are gonna join me for a meal." Not.
How do you expect to make a meal? by stabbing an animal. That's how you make a meal. If you don't, somebody else does. You know, when you get your hamburger from McDonald's, somewhere along the way it was a cow. Possibly. Bad example, but you get my point. Someone slaughtered it.
Creepy at all. And you know what? The brothers are scared. The man did as Joseph told him and took the men to Joseph's house. Now the men were frightened when they were taken to his house. They thought, we were brought here because of the silver that was put back into our sacks the first.
Just as Joseph wanted them, terrified. But he's going to relieve their worry in a short order.
First time. He wants to attack us and overpower us and seize us as slaves and take our donkeys. I like how their thought process goes directly from, this guy offered us food, to, he secretly wants our asses. Literally. Their fear is misplaced.
Only you would put that together. Terrible.
Though. Joseph is rich. He doesn't need your donkeys or your money. Relax. So they went up to Joseph's steward and spoke to him at the entrance to the house. We beg your pardon, our lord, they said. We came down here the first time to buy food, but at the place where we stopped for the night, we opened our sacks and each of us found his silver, the exact weight, in the mouth of his sack. So we have brought it back with us. We have also brought additional silver with us to buy food. We don't know who put our silver in our sacks. They are totally sucking up to the butler. We didn't want to come back, but we felt obligated to come back, so please don't let the bad man hurt us. It's all right, he said. Don't be afraid. Your God, the God of your father, has given you treasure in your sacks. I received your silver. Then he brought Simeon out to them. Oh, come on. God did not put the money there. We were told in the last chapter that Joseph ordered that to happen. But at least Simeon is back.
That's one of those examples of blaming God for good fortune. No, God did not put the silver there, but God did set in motion the events that caused the silver to be there. And that's what the guy is saying. God has blessed you with good graces. Other people did the work, but it was God's blessing that allowed it. No one is saying God physically put the silver in the sack. You are knocking down straw men hard.
All is well again.
By the way, remember, they brought Simeon out, which means he wasn't in jail. He was in Joseph's house.
Unless the servant is just buttering them up before the big kill. The steward took the men into Joseph's house, gave them water to wash their feet, and provided fodder for their donkeys. They prepared their gifts for Joseph's arrival at noon, because they had heard that they were to eat there. What's on the menu? Probably the brothers, the way this is going. When Joseph came home, they presented to him the gifts they had brought into the house.
I imagine that has crossed their minds, which is what Joseph wanted them to be thinking.
And they bowed down before him to the ground. He asked them how they were, and then he said, How is your aged father you told me about? Is he still living? They replied, Your servant, our father, is still alive and well. And they bowed down, prostrating themselves before him.
That means laying face down on the ground with both arms spread out and both legs behind them. That's what prostrating means.
Joseph is just messing with their minds. Tell me about my father. I mean, your father. Is he okay? As he looked about and saw his brother Benjamin, his own mother's son, he asked, Is this your youngest brother, the one you told me about? And he said, God be gracious to you, my son. Deeply moved at the sight of his brother, Joseph hurried out and looked for a place to weep. He went into his private room and wept there. Aww, he has feelings. Okay, seriously, how have these brothers not recognized him yet? He should look kind of like Benjamin. But don't feel...
And he probably looks exactly like him, and they probably have noticed a resemblance. But again, they sold their brother into slavery. They do not expect him to be ruling Egypt or being lord over them, because they don't remember the dream. that Joseph had when he was a child. He will remind them. Now, when he saw his young brother, he was moved to tears because he missed him terribly.
I feel bad for Joseph. He's the one keeping this charade going. This homecoming could have happened a chapter ago, but Joseph has been playing this long game with them, making them go back home while one brother stays in prison, making idle threats, taking
Glorious, isn't it? They deserve every bit of it.
their gifts but not giving them what they want. I feel nothing for his weeping.
Of course you don't, because you don't have any genuine feelings. You are completely brainwashed. You think up is down and down is up and good is evil and left is right and right is left. And wrong. Wrong you are.
He had washed his face. He came out and, controlling himself, said, "Serve the food." That is so maniacal. He was weeping out loud a second ago because he hadn't seen his youngest brother in forever. And now he's back into sociopath mode. Sorry, all I had to pee. Servant, bring us the decapitated goat. They served him by himself, the brothers by themselves, and the Egyptians who ate with him by themselves, because Egyptians could not eat with Hebrews, for that is detestable to Egyptians.
Yep, this will come into play later in the Bible also, even up to where Jesus is.
I'm glad the Bible found a way to squeeze a little racism into this chapter. This passage could have said they all ate food.
How do you know it's racism? How do you know they're not detested because of some other reason, like spiritually? It's not because of where they're from. It's because of whose bloodline they're from. It's not racism. It's lineagism. Either way, that's the way they were, so that's why they put it in the Bible. They could have said they all ate food, but that's not what happened, is it?
Instead, we get everyone ate at their own tables because, seriously, Egyptians cannot eat next to those people. Ew, no, they have Hebrew cooties. Hebrewdies. That was stupid. The men had been seated before him in the order of their ages, from the firstborn to the youngest, and they looked...
So he's ageist also, huh? What other ists and phobes can you squeeze out of this verse?
At each other in astonishment. When portions were served to them from Joseph's table, Benjamin's portion was 5 times as much as anyone else's. So they feasted and drank freely with him.
What is that, like brotherist?
Joseph is such a little jerk. He makes them sit in birth order like a crappy corporate icebreaker, then gives the youngest child the biggest meal during a famine. It's like he's just causing chaos everywhere he goes to get
Yes, Jesus came from Seth.
Revenge on the brothers who once left him for dead. Also, clearly, whoever wrote this was an only child. Because if you ever give the youngest kid the biggest portion of anything, he won't have it for long.
That's kind of the point. Whoever wrote this knew exactly what having a big brother was like. And by the way, Joseph did that on purpose, to show them that their greatness was nothing compared to his greatness. And their haughtiness and his brother's lowliness were made equal. That's the reason he did that.
Older kids will just take it from him. Don't blame me. Those are the rules. I didn't create them. Guess what? We're done. It just ends with everyone getting drunk.
Yep.
And I can't tell you if Joseph still wants to play a mind game or if he's finally going to drop the act and say, "I was just kidding. Come here, you guys." So maybe we'll have a happy reunion soon? Or maybe he'll slaughter everyone. I mean, it's the Bible. You can't tell.
Yes, you can. You can tell very clearly because the whole point in this ruse was to give them a little payback for what they did to him. But because he is a just man and does not hold a grudge, He's going to take care of them for the rest of their lives in royalty. They no longer have to live in squalor. They will be with him in Egypt from now on. He will love his family from now on, and they will be gracious for it, and they will repent for their mistakes. It's a beautiful story and a happy ending. And with that, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you'll get notifications when I'm going to be here. And hit that like button like it owes you money. It owes me money. Share this video with somebody you love or somebody you hate. It's either a blessing or an annoyance. Either way, it works for me. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you're thinking. Bless me, curse me, question me, challenge me. Challenge yourself. Whatever works, as long as you're thinking. And that's what I want you to be doing, is thinking. And if this ministry has helped you and you would like to keep us helping you, if you think what I'm doing is valuable, please go to paypal.me/JakeJohnsonBand. I could sure use it. It's a win-win and everybody's happy. It's a blessing for me. It's a write-off for you. However you want to play it. And with that, I will take your questions, comments, or ideas. What did you guys think of those books? By the way, when did Denny's stop selling bourbon? I don't know that they ever did sell bourbon. I don't think Denny's is an alcohol establishment. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. I spent a lot of time at Denny's, and I don't recall them ever selling alcohol. But yes, April, and that was a good observation on your part. Jesus did come from Seth's bloodline because Cain's bloodline was cursed, and Abel's bloodline was not because he was murdered before he had any children. Oh, I know. I know he was kidding. I was just playing into the ruse. And he came by way of David a little further down the line also. David was his great-great-great-grandfather. Which is why I know that his mother was royalty. And possibly his dad too. Good preaching on my part. Thank you, sweetheart. I try. I gotcha. OLC, what does that mean? Oh, I see. I got you. I can barely read the text. I'm blind. New song. It's a cold night in Florida. It's a cold night in Florida. It seems like it is almost 50 degrees outside. It's a cold night in Florida. Seems like it's 50 degrees outside. It might be 50 degrees. It's like 30 degrees here. Making you have the sneezes, huh? I get the sneezes from the sun, but I don't think I've ever got it from the cold before. The brightness of the sun makes me sneeze. It's pretty cold outside. Let me see what temperature it is. Oh, 34 degrees. $34 degrees. Oh, my old knee is aching. Uh, how is everyone there? As far as I know, everybody's fine. I spoke to Missy about 3 hours ago. She come hang out with me for a few minutes, and we had some chicken sandwiches. And Kimmy has just moved into her first apartment with her boyfriend, so that's pretty cool. Well, I got a little space heater going, but it's pretty warm in the house. It's only when I go outside that it's really cold. Yeah, it is pretty awesome. This is her first time being out on her own, so it's about time. She's grown up a lot and she's able to deal with certain things on her own now. You know, she's got some mental issues, but she's worked around them and figured out ways to do things without messing up too bad. And Missy trusts her to be on her own and has done a good job teaching her and training her. So we'll see how it works out. I will. I'll tell them you love them. And I love you too. And not just 'cause you feed me. The atheist was not funny tonight. I found a lot of his comments to be very irreverent. Yeah, he does that a lot. He's very irreverent. He's the kind of guy that if I were with him, I would want to slap him around a little. But you know how it is. Some people you just can't take very much of. And he's one of those guys that if I knew him in person, I could only take him in small doses or I'd be done told him off. The aggressor would come out of me, which I don't do very often because I'm a peaceful guy and I'm an entertainer, so I'm used to putting up with drunks and people who don't have very good common sense. But some people, immediately I want to punch them in the face. I don't know where that comes from, but it happens. I love you, Gooder. Yes, my thoughts under a microscope. Exactly. Yep. I would have to dominate that guy if I met him in person. And don't let me fool you. I may look fat, old, and slow, but I got a few moves. At least one. If that don't do it, though, I might have to run, because one's about all I got. It is the redhead in us. I do have a temper. It just takes a long time to get it out. I put up with a lot of shit before I blow up. When I blow up, though, everybody leaves, because it's kind of scary. It even scares me. And I don't like to blow up. I don't like to lose control. But I got that Larry Johnson in me, and it comes out occasionally. April will tell you, she's seen it once. I get mad as hell. I'm one of those people that gets blackout mad, like I don't remember what happened. Yeah, you're the same. But you blow up a lot faster than I do, though. It takes months to get me that angry to where I just snap. But when I snap, it's on. It's coming out. Ain't nothing stopping it. Yeah. I kind of wish that I could blow up easier because it would be a lot less pressure. You know what I mean? But when I blow up, when I finally reach that point, I have been putting up with whatever it is for so long that it's like a dynamite exploding. It just goes all over the place. I cloud up rain all over the place. She never gets mad at me. I'm almost perfect. Well, you better stay that way, because if she ever does get mad at you, buddy, you're going to have a different idea about her when she's done. She came at me with a knife one time. She was about 9 months pregnant. That'll tell you anything. And it was a big knife, too. It's the ram in me. That's a good description. Yeah, don't ever piss her off, I'm telling you. That's my blood, and I'm telling you. No need to thank me. I've been there. I've been on the receiving end of it, so I know. I still have scars to prove it. She ever told you about that, Kevin, when she put a hot curling iron on my bare leg one time when I was about 9 or 10 years old? She walked over. I was sitting on the edge of the bed, and her and some other girl was there. I don't remember who. It might have been my sister. It might have been her sister. They were there and talking amongst themselves, and I was the typical boy wanting to be part of the conversation, and she just walked over with a hot iron and just put it on my leg and said, "Does that hurt?" Yow! Yeah, it hurt. I still got a scar from it. You put a mop on his face? Don't be sorry, honey. That was a long time ago. It don't bother me none. Every now and then I look down and see it, though, and it reminds me, no, I didn't deserve it. I didn't even know what she was mad about. Or if she was mad. I think she just wanted to see me jump. But kids do things like that sometimes. Oh, don't be sorry about it, honey. It's character building. I forgave you when you did it. That's one of the reasons I'm as tough as I am, putting up with shit like that all my life. You've more than made up for it anyway, so that's okay. You've been a good cousin. I'm proud to have you. Unlike some of my other cousins who talk really badly about me for no apparent reason. You're not mean. Ain't a mean bone in your body. Little spiteful maybe, but not mean. Appreciated. I'm not too worried about it. I don't like being talked bad about, but I assume that anybody that actually knows me knows better, so I'm not worried about it. Blunt's a good way to be. No bullshit, no sugarcoating. Say it like it is. Say what you mean and mean what you say. I'm the same way. Most people like that about me, but some people can't stand it. They want me to lie to them, I guess. But I just don't do that. Browns 35, Steelers 7.5. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da. It's the sports update. Put some cocks in your ear. That's for sure. Yep. You don't get nowhere in this world by sugarcoating. Browns are an underdog. Okay. So maybe they'll come up and win and be the overdog. I enjoyed it too, honey. Thank you guys for hanging out and being part of the festivities. And I enjoy bringing it to you. And I'm really enjoying Monday nights. Thank you. I could use it. But always send love my way. I'll send it back. You know what I mean? You know what I mean. Hey, God bless. Stay warm tonight. Oh, I'm always warm. I got plenty of blankets and I got my nice little heater over here. And my house is well insulated. I'm not in any danger of being cold. But thank you. And I kind of scared to watch the news tonight. As much garbage has been going on in the world. I have no idea what's going to be out there happening. It ain't looking good though, I can tell you that. There's some serious craziness going on up north. I hope that it works out. I hope that things will ease up and calm down, because if they don't, we might be in for some record-breaking historical stuff happening. Stuff they'll be writing about in books in another 50 years. But I hope that it don't come to that. Just put it in God's hands. That's right. That's all you can do. The Bible says that things are going to get bad before they get better. So, it's expected. Not like we don't know it's coming. Just here, this is my advice. Get some extra food, some non-perishable stuff that you can keep about 2 weeks worth. Get a couple cans of gasoline. Fill your cars up. Stay on top of things. Make sure you're prepared, because the bottom could fall out of this thing at any moment, and you need to be prepared to last a couple weeks without help. It is coming down to something, and when it happens, more than likely martial law will be instated, and if that's the case, you won't be able to go anywhere or get any cash or anything like that. So make sure that you're prepared and you're covered, and that you got some storeway stuff. And it couldn't hurt you to have something to trade with, some uh, electronics or some silver, or, anything that you might be able to trade with, because it may come to that where you may need to trade for some food or something. And it'd be helpful to have it. Some extra toilet paper, some extra bourbon and cigars, some extra cigarettes. Yep. Some cash on hand. Put it in your Bible, or whatever. That way you have it in case you need it. At least for the next year. Be prepared. Get some canned stuff. April, it'd be a good idea for you to take up canning and learn how to put some stuff in some jars. Put in your pantry. Some beans and such. Some rice. Get you some rice. Things you can eat and survive off of. It don't have to be something you like. A good thing to buy would be some MREs from the military surplus store. Get you a box full of those. Things you can just munch on, you know. Some extra jizz for the atheists. Yep. I kind of wonder if he goes that way sometimes. Apparently he's married and has kids, but he sure acts a little effeminate, doesn't he? A little light in the loafers. Yeah, that's a good thing to do. Just be prepared. You only need about 2 weeks worth, because after that, there ain't much you can do anyway. You know what I'm saying? Nothing's going to last forever. But have enough that you could stay locked up in your house for 2 weeks and survive. Get you some jugs of water and put away. You know, things like that. It's good to have those things. Enough water that you can drink for a couple of weeks, because when things get tight, they're going to get real tight. Here's his sign. That's possible. I don't know, man. And just remember, if you want your mind to be poisoned, I'm the guy to come to. Mr. Neckbeard. Good deal. As long as my family's taken care of, that's all that matters. And you know the drill. If you need me, call and I'll come a running. No questions asked. And you know the kind of things I'm capable of, so at least I think you do. I assume you know. My other cousin thinks I'm uneducated. He has no idea, does it? Sorry. Uneducated. I sent a list of my education. I left a lot of off of it, but I sent the important stuff. Didn't like that. Didn't respond. I asked what her education looked like. Didn't get a response. Okay, you're ready to go. I'm ready to go. I love you. Have a great night. Once again, press all the buttons, do all the things. PayPal.me/Jake Johnson Band. I love y'all, and I will see you Monday with the first book of John. I'm excited. I can't wait to get started. Be safe. God bless. And look after your family. Number one. See you, Kev. Love you guys. Good night.